A historic moment for Nunavut, the North, and Canada. A final devolution agreement has been signed, which means Nunavut will take control of its land, resources, and future from the federal government. This is the biggest land transfer in Canadian history, and it's the last devolution agreement to be signed in the country. When it comes into full effect, the transfer of power from the federal government to the Northern Territories will be complete. Decisions about the North will be made in the North. Good evening. Welcome to Northbeat. I'm Megan Roberts. Nunavut's Inuit have waited a long time for this moment, an agreement to transfer control of Nunavut's land and resources to the territorial government. It also means about 90 federal jobs will be transferred to the territorial workforce. The CBC's Nick Murray joins me now from Iqaluit. Good to see you, Nick. What does this devolution deal mean for Nunavut going forward?
Yeah, good evening, Megan. A huge day for Nunavut today, one that's been more than 25 years in the making. I actually had a quick chat earlier with Paul Kwaso, who was one of the chief devolution negotiators back in the early 90s, and he said this negotiation has been going on since as far back as the land claims negotiation, so really decades in the making to get this deal done. But what this ultimately means is Nunavut will now have all the decision-making power on its own lands, where previously Ottawa had the final say. Now, this has huge implications for the territory, much like the deals we saw in the NWT in 2014 and the Yukon back in 2003. Specifically, Nunavut will now earn royalties from development on Crown lands and have the power to reject proposals. Here's Nunavut Premier PJ Akiarok at the signing ceremony earlier today.
Our land is rich with precious metals, minerals, as well as rare earths that could secure our economic prosperity into our future. It is our time, our territory, our decisions, and our future.
So, what exactly is in this deal? Well, for starters, Nunavut is getting an $85 million boost to the territorial financing formula. It'll also get a one-time payment of $82 million to help with the transition and training. Now, the timeline for the transfer is 3 years from now, so all three sides, that's the federal government, the Nunavut government, and Nunavut Tungavik, will get to work on an implementation plan. They'll also get back to the negotiating table on offshore resources, which was not settled in this agreement, although there is language in there that Nunavut will get a, quote, equitable treatment on offshore oil and gas than the other provinces and territories, so we'll wait and see what comes of that. Now, the other big question in all of this is the job transfer. Federal officials have said that it's in the ballpark of 90 jobs that will go from the federal to the territorial government, but as we well know, Nunavut has long struggled with capacity issues, and it's now about to take on even more responsibility. So, what happens if those jobs can't get filled? Well, I asked that to the Prime Minister when he took questions from reporters after the signing ceremony.
But devolution is part of the solution, where we actually work with the government of Nunavut to build that capacity to be able to deliver those programs in the ways that people in Nunavut deserve. Not just high-quality programming, but high-quality programming delivered by people here, from here, and for here.
Now, part of that human resources component will actually fall on Nunavut Tungavik, the third signatory to this devolution agreement, and they've been given the mandate for training people for these new positions in the spirit of Article 23 of the Land Claims Agreement, which does speak to Inuit representation in government. So NTI President Aluki Kutiak said that that was the part of the deal that she was most proud of. So all in all, very celebratory day here in Iqaluit, Megan, that was capped by a dance party in which the Prime Minister even got up on stage to break down. Megan.
Thank you so much, Nick. Sounds like a good time. That's the CBC's Nick Murray in Iqaluit tonight. As you saw, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau flew to Iqaluit to sign this agreement. It happened in front of a packed room with past, present, and future leaders, all there to witness the historic occasion. Let's listen now to more remarks from Nunavut's Premier and the Prime Minister about the significance of today.
We didn't, and we're ready. Wakadlanga, Pikutyapaka, Nunavumute Inuitum. Our land, our resources in the hands of our people. It's our land, our resources in the hands of our people. Okadla. Nunavum. Makita Jutigum Noctangin. Nunavum Mutano. Tigo Yahu. Naminasona, or devolution, is one more step in the realization of a self-reliant Nunavum. This is the next big step and the next chapter in the story of our beautiful territory. We didn't.
Today marks the finalization of an agreement that will see the largest land transfer in the history of Canada. 2 million square kilometres of land and waters will be transferred from the Government of Canada to the Government of Nunavut, to Nunavummiut. Inuit have hunted and fished and lived on these lands for generations, some going back well before recorded history. Today begins a new chapter in the history of Nunavut, a transformative chapter. Now, the formal name for this process is devolution, but in many ways it's more of an evolution in our partnership as the federal government and the territory, and also an evolution in the progress towards self-determination for Inuit living in Nunavut. It makes me think of the Inuit word ayuinata, a word that our Governor General, Mary Simon, has shared many times with all Canadians and indeed with the world. A term that means never give up. It's what led to the formation of this territory. It's what got us to today's agreement. And it's what will make sure that we continue to build a better future for the people of Nunavut.
Devolution was always the dream for Nunavut, and it was a long time coming. Here are the key moments that got us to where we are today. In the 1960s, the federal government began gradually transferring some responsibilities to territorial governments, including for things like health, social services, and housing. The transfers happened over a long period of time, and during that same time, Inuit began fighting for self-government and rights to their lands and resources. That battle brings us to May 25th, 1993, when the Nunavut land claim is signed. Paul Quassa, one of the signatories, says that devolution, complete territorial control over Nunavut, was part of the vision in that agreement, even if it wasn't a reality at that time. Then, on April 1st, 1999, Nunavut officially becomes Canada's newest territory with its own government. Almost a decade later, on September 5th, 2008, Nunavut, NTI, and Canada signed a negotiation protocol for devolution, the very first step in starting the devolution process. Negotiations wouldn't formally begin for several years. They started in early October of 2014. Then, 5 years later, on August 15th, 2019, Nunavut signs a devolution agreement in principle, the next step forward in the devolution process. This agreement signaled that all the major issues were resolved and acted as a stepping stone to the final agreement, which is where we are today, January 18th, 2024. The devolution agreement is signed by Canada, the government of Nunavut, and NTI. So even after all these decades, this is not over yet. The parties will work on implementing the agreement over the next 3 years, including creating and passing legislation. The final transfer of responsibilities should happen on April 1st, 2027. But that doesn't mean Nunavummiut aren't already starting to think about what devolution means for the territory. Let's hear now from 3 people on that topic. Paul Quassa, who helped negotiate the Nunavut Land Claims Agreement, PJ Aryaguk, Nunavut's premier, who will usher the territory through the final steps of devolution, and Derek Irwin, who's studying land management and will make his career in this new era. They talk about how we got here and where we're going next.
When we were negotiating the Nunavut Land Claims Agreement, Inuit had an opportunity to select their own lands, and the selection which turned out to be about 18% of the territory. And certainly this was an issue with Inuit in our territory. And now with the devolution, we can certainly now say that it's not just the Inuit lands that Inuit will take part in controlling. They will now have an opportunity to have control over the whole territory, and certainly that is a big change in what we have been seeing since we signed the Nunavut Land Claims Agreement.
We've been negotiating for many years this devolution agreement with our partners. We've really looked at structuring it to ensure that we succeed. We've looked at every angle. So there's a lot of work ahead of us. Will there be challenges? Absolutely. But I have full confidence we'll be able to overcome them with the resources we do have. But we're absolutely ready, and we're very excited to be able to take on this very important responsibility. It's truly a nation-building exercise that we're in. But as a last jurisdiction, I very much look forward to rolling up our sleeves and getting to work to ensure that we succeed in this agreement.
When I think about the future of Nunavut, I think about Inuit having 100% ownership over the land. I think of Inuit being in the proper roles when it comes to decision making. I think the youth will probably be the leaders of this next generation, but at the same time we'll take our values and keep them and implement them into legislation to ensure that our wildlife is protected, our waters are protected, but at the same time we could grow economically and look towards a future for our children.
It's like honey, I guess. It's sweet. I think one of the things that we now have to look forward to is our government making good decisions within the resources that we have in our territory. Mining is a very big factor in our territory. Our Nunavut government will now have a say in how this is going to take place in our territory. A government needs to have its own resources to deliver good programming to its citizens, and this is something that I believe I look forward to the day that we started negotiating the Nunavut government, and to me, this whole process is certainly part of a reconciliation, as I can say it.
Nunavut Tungavik Incorporated is, of course, one of the three parties on this agreement. You heard earlier that its president, Aluki Kutiak, is particularly proud of the role NTI will play in training Nunavummiut during this process. As we mentioned, some jobs that were previously under the federal government will now be under the Nunavut government. And NTI wants to make sure as many Inuit as possible have a chance at those opportunities. The agreement lays out how NTI will train and support people. Kutiak says that will help Inuit, and all these new possibilities from devolution are inspiring youth.
Each time I speak with Inuit youth, I think when I see the spark in the eyes of how the possibilities seem endless in our territory, I think, wow, we have a great future. Because I know that at NTI, for instance, we've held over the last 4 years health careers camps of high school students. We've started finance camps, science camps. And to see youth excited about the possibilities, and now with land management responsibilities in Nunavut, we can start talking specifically about how we need water testers, for instance. And so those concrete examples help think about a career path, a training path for Inuit. And I think over time, we often take the long view. Over time, we're able to see how that progresses. When one Inuk succeeds, it has a ripple effect. And so many other Inuit start saying, oh, I too want to do that.
Nunavut is the last territory to sign a devolution deal. Let's take a quick look back now at how it all happened in the Yukon and the Northwest Territories. The Yukon led the territories when it came to devolution. It began negotiating the transfer of power for land and resources in 1998, and full devolution took effect on April 1st, 2003. Now, this is in the Northwest Territories. About a decade later, it signed its final agreement on June 25th, 2013, and it came into effect just under a year later on April 1st, 2014. This agreement gave the NWT 50% of resource revenues up to a limit of $60 million. So, how does this all fit into the national picture? Ken Coates is a well-known Northern public policy specialist and historian. He says the North has gone through one of the biggest political revolutions in Canadian history over the past 20 years, and devolution is critical to that. Coates says Canadians can no longer ignore the territories.
What has occurred now is the North has got its autonomy and its sort of independence from Ottawa, which I think is a really, really important development. And the North is going to be a big part of Canada's future. The resources that are up here, particularly the empowerment and re-empowerment of Indigenous populations, the dealing with security and defense issues. Canada is going to have to pay a lot more attention to the North in the next 50 years than it did in the past 50 years. This is about completing Confederation. The devolution basically makes the Yukon Northwest Territories and now Nunavut more equal within Confederation. Not provinces, that will never happen for constitutional reasons, but more equal within the country. And we should be celebrating that as a nation and saying we're finally coming to terms with what it means to be a northern nation with really fully empowered northern territories.
This is the CFBC's largest detachment, home to elite units, federal and municipal scope. Congratulations on making the cut.
Have you spoken with your father?
I'm coming for you and everyone like you.
I would rather be Baroque than blue.
Lots of reasons to not be a cop.
A Surrey girl should know all of them.
Maybe you should reconsider the uniform and everything that it represents.
I'd rather fight from inside it to make a change.
Why, hello. It's me, Seth Rogen. 10 potters will be facing off in the most extraordinary ceramics competition show that this country has ever seen.
I'm Jen Robertson, and I'll be your host.
So are these potters ready?
This exploded.
To test their skills at the wheel and push themselves every week?
Oh, no. So the ones that do stand out, they really do stand out.
And who will be named champion?
I'm excited to see it. Oh, wow!
Of the Great Canadian Pottery Throwdown.
It appears we have a mystery to solve.
You'll be next.
He's dead.
A murderer was murdered.
Toronto Constabulary, stop!
Here we go.
Make it mini!
I'm gonna push it. Let's go.
My hands are shaking.
This is all very overwhelming.
Don't expect anything normal.
I can't believe it. I'm here.
The new gymnasium in Tuktoyaktuk is now open for students. It's taken years to get to this point. There was a soft opening last week, and though the addition isn't completed yet, the kids are already having fun. The CBC's Des Loreen takes us there.
Come on, Chase. After a 3-year wait, students are back in gym class. Grade 10 student Jones Elias is excited to play basketball again.
Excited for the gym to be back, and next semester I'm going to take phys ed, so going to have a lot of fun in the gym, good practices as well.
Ephraim Warren is the principal of Mango Alex School. He says everyone has been excited to see the new space.
It was like, I can't believe this is our school, I can't believe this is in our community, and it's so nice to see community members, our staff, and those kids have like their faces all lit up for our new gym space.
Tiana Gordon-Rubin is the recreation coordinator for the Hamlet. She's happy to see the youth have a place to be active in school once again.
I'm excited for all the students who have never experienced a gym class before. A lot of students too who are going to be excited to get back into playing sports with their class. to build up their skills once again so that they can attend tournaments and compete as well.
Community events will come back soon. Warren says an announcement on the official community grand opening will be made shortly. Des Loreen, CBC News, Inuvik.
The city of Whitehorse is receiving $4.5 million from the federal government for upgrades to the Canada Games Centre. That'll go toward upgrading its heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system. The Whitehorse mayor says it'll make the centre a healthier, safer place for Yukoners to come together.
The funding that we're receiving today will go towards maybe not something necessarily flashy, but it is something really, really important. People will understand the pool generates a lot of humidity. Any property owner will know that you need to stay on top of moisture, even in a dry, cold climate like ours. And so that's why this investment is really, really important.
Cabot says the city will also buy 2 electric vehicles to shuttle transit drivers to and from active routes. Those vehicles will cost a little more than $100,000. And that wasn't the only announcement today. The federal government also announced where an investment in affordable housing will go in the NWT. Dozens of new homes are set to be built in small communities across the territory. 26 badly needed homes will go to Cleachon communities, 5 to Fort Liard, up to 10 new homes in Litzel Cay, 7 in Nahai Butte, and 6 in Wrigley.
We can create new homes so parents can raise their children without worrying about where they may spend the next night, and so that workers can go home at the end of the day and not be faced with the impossible choice of paying rent or putting food on the table.
All these homes come with a price tag of about $27 million. Of that, almost $19 million is coming from the federal government, and the rest will be covered by communities and the NWT government.
This project will find housing for 7 families in the community. The focus on this project is to address housing needs for Indigenous women and youth members in our community.
These units are meant to help create affordable housing for vulnerable people, including those at imminent risk of homelessness. A beloved northern brand should be making its way back to some grocery stores soon. Polar eggs have been missing from store shelves for almost 2 years. The egg farm is now under new management, and they're about to fill one of their first orders. The former owner, Kevin Wallington, says he's excited to see what the new owners will do, and he's happy to see young farmers committed to keeping the business running. The new owners say they've had a warm welcome so far, and they can't wait to be back in stores.
The first order will officially be, I guess, put on the shelves probably next week. So that's what we're hoping for. Of course, when it does eventually hit the shelves, we're going to be pretty excited about that. That's been a long time coming.
Next up, deliveries to about 20 stores across the NWT in the coming weeks. And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. We leave you tonight with some of the sights and sounds from today's devolution agreement signing in Iqaluit. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a good night.
What do I like? I like open fires, moonlit nights, chatty letters, rainy days. I like daydreaming. I love this colorful little island of ruby, emerald, and sapphire. Yet often my dark moods come. I'm possessed body and soul by this depression. They say women shouldn't write. Some days I almost give up. But I cannot contain my imagination. I made Anne real. I gave her my love of nature, my love of books, and my childhood dreams. My greatest happiness would be to climb the alpine path and write upon it a woman's humble name.
Lucy Maud Montgomery battled depression, rejection, and sexism to become known around the world for Anne of Green Gables and 19 other novels.
Closing this case gets you one step closer to you getting back on the squad and keeping you out of prison.
You're not a detective, you're a con artist. You have a driver's license, right?
Of course, I have 9. If you couldn't be a cop, what would you be?
Nothing. My dad raised me to be a cop. That's who I am. Stay here.
You're adorable.
You guys are making this entire station look like a circus.
He's busy trying to solve a murder. What are you doing?
Thanks for having my back.
Look at you.
Is this your girlfriend? This is not my girlfriend. She's way too cool to be your girlfriend. She's not way too cool to be my girlfriend.
Knock, knock!
Who's that?
He's fired!
I'm starting to think you don't know what a joke is.
You're gonna eat nothing but raw spleen.
Getting into peak physical shape is 50% training, 50% diet.
Never occurred to me to bring lawn chairs out here.
Never occurred to the Egyptians to build the pyramids until it did.
Oh, simpler times.
Let's set you up with a lunch date.
You're deaf? I don't know sign.
This feels a little wrong.
If accessibility is wrong, we don't want to be right.
Spicy.
Oh, do tell.
Breaking news. The critics are talking. Oh, this is it. Imagine the Wonder Years if it were written by Gene Shepard. They twisted it all up.
Well, you can't trust a newsman.
Highly recommended.
Onwards.
Onwards.
Heartwarming.
This doesn't mean I'm better than anyone here tonight. It just says it.
100% fresh.
Well, I suppose we don't need to get rid of the cable right this second.
Son of a Critch.
You look like a cod gasping for air.
Name something you see people do on TV that you secretly could do better.
Host.
I knew that was hard.
Family Feud Canada. Watch free on CBC Gem.
We want you to know that you can ask us anything. Need help with your Riz?
You just made Riz uncool.
There is something that's been bothering me. Are mutual funds or ETFs better for my long-term goals?
Load weapon!
Welcome to the show!
Fire! Big, 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 big!
I'm from the Liberal Party, and I...
Every week, the issues that matter to Canadians.
These are acts of desperation.
Connecting politics to people.
Some people have lost everything.
Join me for Rosemary Barton Live.
What do we know
About that with Andrew Chang.
I think we can explain.
Watch free on CBC Gem.